This week's episode is brought to you by Lumoid. Lumoid is a try-before-you-buy service for all sorts of consumer electronics. From camera gear and drones to fitness trackers and audio equipment, they have an extensive collection of gear, and you can check them out at lumoid.com/photorectv. This week, new Lumoid customers can save 15% off their rental by using the code PHOTOREC15. And by viewers like you. Visit photorec.tv/support to learn how you can support this show and join our community of photographers.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Photo Mishmash. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode 85. Welcome back everybody. I guess welcome us back.
And welcome you back. And you do not need to adjust your monitors, and we do not need to adjust our white balance. We just got this tan.
We got a little tan in New Zealand.
We did. And Fiji helped a little too.
Very warm. Not complaining at all because it's pretty cold here.
That's right. Who are you?
Oh, who are you? What kind of question is that?
I am Toby, photographer and educator.
And I'm Christina. I'm a full-time wedding photographer. And every week we bring you photography news, discussions, and we answer your questions live at the very end of the show. So if you have a question that's related to photography or gear, leave it in the chat. We'll add it to the queue and try to get to as many as we can.
This week we're talking about what worked for us in New Zealand and what didn't. Picasa is dead and dying. Not the artist, he already died, but the app from Google. So what are your alternatives to free photo editing and organizing? And as Christina said, we'll be answering your questions live, especially talking breaking news. The Pentax K1 full frame camera was just announced and looks like a pile of value. Did you know I was going to say value?
I thought you were going to say garbage.
No. They make good stuff, but what happened? Well, we'll talk about it. So, what do we do next?
So let's talk about what people may have missed if they weren't closely keeping up with the channel. So first of all, if you haven't seen our New Zealand vlogs, you have to go do that. We haven't uploaded all of them yet. There's one more to go.
And maybe two. I might cobble together. There's so much content we shot.
Yeah, there's so much footage that didn't make it because we were trying to make them really condensed for you all. But it was just unbelievable. The scenery was just beyond what I would have ever imagined, and we had a lot of fun. It was a great trip. There were a lot of great people on the trip, and
there always are.
There always are, yeah.
You always got the kind of quiet ones. You always got the ones that keep everybody laughing, and just everybody's friendly and has a lot of fun. Yeah,
and we'll get to more about New Zealand later in the show.
But go watch those vlogs. And that wasn't the only thing that came out while we were away, though. I also sat down in the restaurant in Christchurch and talked about the brand new Sony a6300, which has only been announced. I will be bringing you some more hands-on information about that camera very soon, but you can hear my thoughts about the camera as it was announced. It looks very nice. The A6000 continues to be one of my top picks for most people who are like, I want to step up from a point and shoot. That's the camera to go to. The A6300 looks to be a nice upgrade and continue that trend.
Yeah.
And kind of related, not a video, but a post. The Canon 80D is going to be announced very soon. This is a rumor post, but the spec list looks completely accurate to me. I did a post about that. We'll link that in the show notes. And all of the stuff we're talking about today are linked in the show notes right down below this video. So there's some things we just touch on, some things that we mention. If you want to read more from the original sources, you just click through and do that.
Yeah, and so that's it for in case you missed it. And a lot of you guys asked on the vlogs about what we were shooting with. We touched on it briefly when we gave you some tips here and there about what we were shooting, but we want to go into a little bit more depth about
just a little.
What we brought with us, what we were shooting, and so take it away. What did you bring?
Well, you know, one of the things that we were really excited about with the Sony is that idea of kind of the hybrid camera being able to shoot photos for us and shoot video for us. And the reality that we've found, it does both of those well, but it's not enjoyable to shoot video with the Sony. And especially when you compare it to something like the GH4.
Yeah.
There is, especially when we're producing these on the go, kind of, we wanted them to have an organic feel, not kind of like a setup in the field, newscast every time. And the GH4 just works fabulously for that. Its battery life, its form, its function, its size, all really, really nice.
Yeah.
The lens we used most was the 12 to 35 f2.8, which I've already sent back to Lumoid. We'll talk more about that in a second.
That's all we used, wasn't it?
That's true. That's all we used.
And it was great. I mean, it's like super versatile. Usually I like really wide apertures to be able to isolate, but when you shoot video, it's a little bit different than...
It's still an f2.8.
Yeah, that's true. So I was able to get a good bit of depth, but it was perfect. I mean, it was a really great setup. I'm really glad we chose it. That the lens was perfect, and this camera, I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. The Sony has really nice quality, but in order to just get it to work, which is mostly what we're looking for these videos, just for something to work, this is the camera.
This is the camera, and that lens was stabilized, and so that was enough stabilization. We brought along a big gimbal, the newest one that everybody's been recommending we try. It's the Beholder DS1.
It's nice.
MS1. It is very nice. We used it some in Hobbiton.
Yeah.
But it felt like it slowed down production because you would, even though it was toolless to rebalance, you would have to do that, and this on a tripod, and I fought you a little bit at the beginning because I didn't feel like it was quite stabilized enough.
Yeah.
But it was. None of you complained about it, so I feel like it was stabilized
Now they're going
enough.
to complain because we told them that they didn't complain.
It's fine, I don't care. So I mean, it's just, I can't say enough good things about the GH4. The bad thing is, in lower light, it gets not as great. But, again, for our organic vlogs, one, we didn't really shoot when in lower light. We had the choice of kind of when we shot, and two, that's what it's really like. I've run into wedding photographers who use this, and they say, yeah, it gets grainy in the low light, but I just tell my brides or my couples that's what it's going to be like, and that's kind of the feel of it. And so,
totally.
God, the value of this camera.
Yeah.
And
can't say enough good things about
one
it.
battery would almost last the whole day, and I mean, we're shooting gigabytes, 30 to 50 gigabytes of footage a day with that camera. And there were a couple times where we'd have to switch batteries midday, or not midday, but towards the end. And the audio we used was just this little Shure VP83F.
It was a little bit of a struggle at first to try to get it to, and it's always, I mean, audio is always and is always going to be a struggle. I mean, I think that's just what it is, but it worked for the most part. I think that, as we use it more, we'll get used to kind of, how to set it up appropriately for it to pick up our voice, and figuring out how to project a little bit more is going to really help.
The cicadas, for you New Zealanders, you know what I'm talking about, but those cicadas, we get them here in the States,
they're nuts,
but not in those numbers, except every once in a while. So
every 17 years.
Every 17 years, but God, they're everywhere and in the background, and sometimes the audio will cut them out a little bit, but they're pretty noisy.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, so the Sony did come with me, and I shot all of my pictures with the Sony, and it is a fantastic travel and landscape camera. So I was just kind of grumping about the video side of things, but it is fantastic. And I borrowed from Sony the 70 to 200 f4, which looks a little bit bigger with the lens hood on, which is a fantastic travel lens. I meant to, before this show, go through and do quick calculations of how many pictures were shot with which lens. I believe most of my shots were this lens. And I think, again, we talk about this in the vlogs, but I think that might be counterintuitive to some beginners. You're going off on this landscape, amazing landscape place, really a telephoto lens? Yes, because it makes the mountains look bigger. It compresses the foreground and the background, and kind of, it just tightens everything up so nicely. And with wide angle lenses, that can be really challenging, and it often makes things look smaller than you want, especially big mountains. Yeah. So really love that combination of those. I also did bring my Canon 24-70 to use on the Sony.
But you primarily use the 70 to 200, right?
Yep, and the 55.
And the 55.
But I'm so cheap right now, or trying to be so frugal right now. The 24-70, I have got nice circular polarizer and ND filter for it, so that's why I wanted to use those, and I didn't bother to get like stepper rings and things like that. So, but talking about wide-angle lenses, I didn't use this a ton because it is extremely wide. This is the 14 millimeter f2.8 from Rokinon. This is the FE mount, so direct no adapters needed, but they also make it for Canon and Nikon and probably somebody else too. Very wide. During the day, I struggle with its use just because I was talking about, as I was saying, I like the 7200. I like that telephoto look for landscapes. But at night, in the Mount Cook National Park, Regional Park area, throwing this on and getting that wide view of the starry sky, whew, so sharp, so cheap. It was $250 for a while around the holidays. I think it's back up to $299. That's still, it's full manual, everything. But it is a really nice lens. There's no way to go as cheap and that wide. The Tokina 11-16 f2.8 would be my next choice for that. But very nice. So that's it. And the GH4 sat on top of the Mi Photo tripod most of the time that we held out like a big selfie stick. Certainly got, with this fuzzy thing on top and holding that tripod out like a big selfie stick, we got a lot of looks.
Yeah, we did. It's
kind of fun.
It was sort of, yeah. I mean, I've always been very like kind of self-conscious about that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think we have gotten the most looks. I think it was because of the wind killer, the raccoon thing, because people just didn't know what it was, and people always ask. So we got lots of weird looks. But I was fine with it because I'm used to it now.
Yep. And the last piece of gear that I wanted to mention is I took my LG V10 with me. I got T-Mobile in here, which it's so nice. It works everywhere. I don't mean to advertise for T-Mobile, but I do love that when you're traveling worldwide. And the camera in here continues to be fantastic in having those easy controls. I'll tell you the one thing that totally has just buggered up though is the fingerprint sensor for the unlock. It never works right for me anymore. And I've even retrained it and it still doesn't. But, so what? The camera doesn't have a good fingerprint sensor. The camera is just so much fun to use, and that, yeah, native control. Love it. Excited the LG G5 is going to be announced early next week. Is that, or Sunday, I think. What's the 21st? Monday. I'm really excited to hear about that. It's got some kind of magic slot on it that might give it more camera controls like zoom and a self-click button. So, we'll see. Talking about gear you might need on a trip or want to try out. One of our sponsors this week is Lumoid. And as I mentioned, we don't own the 12-35. And I'd used it briefly before, but then thinking about what was going to work for us on this trip and really trying to pare things down and go lighter, I was like, let's try the 12-35 and see how it works out for us. And as you heard, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's now moved its way to the top of our like needed gear list.
Must have, yeah.
For continued
Video,
vlogs
yeah.
and videos in general. And so it was so great to just be able to say, hey, Lumoid, I want to rent this lens. And
try it out.
Try it out.
See what it's like.
And part of that rental fee went towards purchasing. So if I decide I want to purchase from Lumoid and purchase that lens or another one that they offer, the cost will be a little bit less because I've earned credits towards doing that. So again and again, I hear from people who are like, I don't know if I should get this lens or that lens. Which one's going to work for me? Get them from Lumoid. Try them out. Decide what works for you. And that's not wasted money because one, you've decided what's going to work for you. And two, you're earning credits towards being able to purchase that down the road. So
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. You can certainly ask me. I can give you my opinion. But you're not really going to know if something's going to work for you.
Unless you try it yourself. Yeah.
That's right.
And it's different. I mean, other rental services don't offer the same thing. So it's really nice to have that opportunity to try something and then also not feel like your money has gone to waste if you're kind of on a tight budget. So
That's right. That's right. Yep. And, you know, you can just rent it for a long weekend, and they often offer deals. And there's a deal right now through us. If you haven't ever rented anything from them before, you could save 15% off your order just by using coupon code PhotoRec15, I think. We'll put that right down below. Riley's giving me a thumbs up. So PhotoRec15 is the code you can use to save 15% off your first rental.
do it. Do it.
Do it. Thumbs up from Christina. And they got a bunch of other cool stuff. Drones. We've been joking and laughing about drones a lot, but if you really actually want to try one out,
So cool.
they've got drones. Fitness trackers. There's so many different fitness trackers. A couple different people on this trip had fitness trackers.
Nick had a fitness tracker.
Nick and Maritza, and I was a little jealous of that. And so, I hear about these different ones. Which one's going to work for me? I can spend hours and hours reading, or I can ask them to send me a box of different fitness trackers, put them all on my arm, go for a walk or run a cycle, see what one was working best for me, and then keep it.
Yep.
So it's a really cool program that they've set up, and you should give it a try, as Christina says. Thank them for their support.
Yeah, of our show. So now let's move on to the news. First up is not surprising news to me.
It isn't?
No.
Oh.
Google is killing off Picasa. If you guys don't know what Picasa is, it's kind of like iPhoto if you're familiar with Macs. It's just a picture storage system. You can do quick edits and modifications to your photo, and it archives and organizes them. You can keyword stuff in it too, right?
And keyword and tag, same thing.
So
folder organization. It was my default pick for people who are like, I don't want to spend any money because it's cross-platform.
Yeah.
It's completely free, and it did a decent job, and it even handled raw files okay.
When's the last time we've talked about it, though?
Yeah, that's it's true. Well, one, because we want to push Lightroom, because then we want people to buy our videos. So, but so it's going away, I think in May, which is really just a couple months away. Not a lot of heads up there.
This is kind of random, but it's not. It's related. It's about Google doing this. Like, I remember when they killed off Google Reader, which I was really upset about because I really loved Google Reader. It's funny that they just decide okay, on July 19th, we're gonna just not make it available at all. Whereas I feel like other companies would just let it just die off on its own. People could still download it, but there's no more support. They're just
Well, I think that actually is going to be true with Picasa if you have it, because it is a standalone program. If you have it, it's going to continue to work, but your connection to the Picasa web albums is going to die. So that you're going to be much more limited in how you can share stuff.
But this makes sense because now with Google Photos, you can do all of that stuff in Google Photos, so you don't have to have it on your computer. It can all just be on the cloud. Right. So it makes sense that they're killing that off.
It does. They want you all to transition to the cloud, and so a lot of people have been asking me, what are the alternatives? What do you recommend now instead or in place of Picasa? And one is, go all in on the cloud and use their cloud services because you can do all of that stuff. You can just dump your files in there and it does face recognition for you. I can search my Picasa photos for tulips and it will find all. Nicholas invited me to the tulip photo group on Facebook this week, so that I searched, and it finds all of my tulips even if I haven't tagged them, or I should say it finds most of them, even if I haven't tagged them because of the creepy or awesome, depending on your opinion, image recognition. Or I can search for fat cats and plenty of pictures of sleeping behemoth Liam. I think he get overfed while we were gone.
He's very large. or maybe just the cats we ran to in Fiji were extraordinarily skinny, which they were.
Okay, but back to this. So yeah, all in on the cloud. If you don't want to do that, you have on Mac, you've got Photos. That's a free program that works. On Windows, funny enough, you also have a program called Windows Photos that works. And then beyond that, there aren't a lot of good options out there. There's some good free stuff on the Linux side, like Darktable and Raw Therapy, but I feel like you need a degree to operate them.
Yeah, it's so funny to think about people using Linux in this day and age because you've got so many just little Chromebooks and things like that are so straightforward and easy to use.
Yeah. Riley, if you can share my screen for a moment, I wanted to show you all. Sometimes I feel like I share kind of the behind the scenes, which makes me so smart of how I help people. One of my helpful sites is Alternative 2. And this is great. You put in some software and it comes up with all of these different other options. I've already been through here though, and I tell you what, there really isn't anything that stands out or jumps out to me as a real replacement to Picasa. The Windows, the Mac Photos, and then I would buy Adobe Elements, which
as opposed to Creative Cloud
is $50. Well, see, people who are using Picasa, I think, we can come back to us, Riley. People who are using Picasa, I think, don't want to do anything more, and probably don't like the idea of renting software for, you know. But Lightroom.
So is it primarily for displaying the photos and searching them? Because what I was going to suggest too is Dropbox, which I use a lot, but it's not very, you can't really categorize things automatically and keyword things, so it doesn't really lend it, it's not really a gallery per se.
Dropbox had a gallery for a while called Carousel, but they killed that. Not enough people were using it.
But I mean, if you're just looking for backup and storage and setting Dropbox to automatically just save your files, I think that's a really great idea.
Yeah. Go all in the cloud, or use the program for your machine, Windows Photos, Apple Photos, or Lightroom, or Adobe Elements. Those are my recommendations. Some of those are not free, but they're really, I can't find anything free that I recommend. Chat room, do you have anything? Oh, we got some Linux users in there too.
Ubuntu, all right.
You know, there's a lot to love about Linux, but again, so many of those programs, they're very powerful, but they have quite a steep learning curve, and because the communities are a bit smaller, you're just not going to have that kind of like training material that you have for Lightroom or even Adobe Elements and things like that as well.
Back in the day, I got sick of Windows, and I tried Ubuntu, and I got it set up and stuff, and I used it for a little while, but then I got bored of like it felt like the back end, like perpetual back end to everything.
Yeah, I ran Ubuntu on a laptop for a while as well, and you know, did everything I needed it to. But then when I started working for the college, I got a Mac, and I was like, "Ooh, this is a little bit more polished around the edges."
GIMP also, you know, if you were looking for something free, GIMP is a free photo editing software. I have never used it myself, but it's very similar to Photoshop in the sense that you can clone things and make edits, and I know photographers who have used it for years and been really happy with it.
Yep.
So if you're looking for
and that is cross-platform. It's not
yeah.
just Linux, but I believe that's where it started. But Darktable, which is a very much kind of like a Lightroom program, is Linux only, I believe. Although no, maybe they make for Windows PC. But again, it's completely free. But I feel like I've looked at it before, I've installed it, I've played with it, and it's not very, very user-friendly in my opinion. So.
All right. So next on the news, the Russian Zenit, is that how you pronounce it? Zenit or Zenit?
I don't know. I'm not
camera
Russian.
is coming back, and it's supposed to rival Leica's in the luxury market for photography. So I personally didn't feel like there was a market or a need for more luxury cameras, but I guess Leica is kind of standalone in the sense, or just on its own in that market. I can't think of anything else that sort of competes against them.
That is like a portable luxury camera.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Hasselblad and, you know.
Yeah, no, those are, those are kind of workhorse cameras, I think.
Yeah.
They're high-end, but they're for professionals, whereas like a lot of professionals do use Leica, but they're not really.
A lot of Ferrari owners use Leica.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Well, here's what I know. So they're bringing this back, and they're going to try to compete against Leica.
Yeah.
I bought a Russian spotting scope when I was a teenager because I wanted to look at the moon and some birds, and just stop there. And I know that about a year after owning it, it literally just fell into two pieces. So it was not very high quality. I'm sorry to the Russians out there.
Oh, so you're just going to make a blanket statement about Russian things based on that one experience when you were 13 years old. How much did it even cost?
Look at this picture of this factory.
Yeah, well, they're just starting.
This doesn't say high quality to me.
Do you think that really their production is happening right now in that state? No, they're going to like fix things up.
Yeah. What's a common Russian name?
I don't know.
Igor? Igor's just going to be in there with a hammer, just banging on metal.
We're just going downhill. I don't think, I hope we don't have any Russian followers.
Roger has used the Zenit before as his first camera ever.
Oh. What did you think, Roger? What did you think of that camera? Probably won't hear back for a little while because of the delay, but maybe we can talk about it later. All right, well, let's move on. So this is kind of old news, but we want to talk about it anyway in case you haven't heard. Adobe's latest Creative Cloud update deletes a file on your computer.
Latest. No, latest, prior to latest. They fixed
Prior
this.
latest.
It's a little bit old news.
So it's fixed. It's not an issue anymore, but the last update of Creative Cloud deleted a file from your computer, and it was like an app file. So based on how many files or what files you have, it deleted something different. So it's
alphabetically, it was the first in the app data folder, and this was happening to Backblaze customers because B happened to be the first for many of those, and their backup data system was getting deleted. Like, what's going on? They figured that out. So yeah, come on, Adobe, stay on top of that.
Well, they did stay on top of it because they fixed it. But yeah, that sucks. Seems like something that maybe when you're doing testing of the latest release that you maybe might run into it. I don't know. I guess not.
Maybe.
So Sony has announced, Sony's just like, they're
a big company with a lot going on.
Yeah, they have a lot going on. So they've announced the industry first stacked CMOS sensor with hybrid autofocus and 3-axis stabilization coming to a phone near you sometime in the near future.
Yeah, 22 megapixels. It's got built-in hybrid autofocus, 3-axis image stabilization, capable of 4K at 30 frames, and 1080 at 120 frames.
Wow.
This, I was just gushing a little bit about my LG V10. Excited about the LG G5.
It's gonna change the game.
These cameras are just going to continue to be more and more impressive. We said we shot almost everything with the GH4. What we didn't, that's in the vlog, is from the LG V10. Quick clips out the bus window or driving, and the night shot actually of me under the Mount Cook with the red on my face. That was shot with a little selfie camera.
And I primarily used my iPhone, which actually doesn't have as nice a camera as that phone. But I used my iPhone for just about everything when I wasn't using my film camera. And I didn't take too many pictures with film just because I was shooting a lot of video. But But yeah, my phone was great.
So this is going to be starting to ship out to manufacturers in March of 2016. That's like days away. And we probably will see it in Sony and other manufacturer sometime soon. Has Apple ever used, I think Apple's used other people's sensors in their iPhones.
I think so.
So it's possible that this could make its way into an iPhone as well. The iPhone, not the 7, that's getting announced very soon, I think, but some other things as well.
So the next story is from DIYphotography.net, and I included it because it kind of caught my eye. At first I thought it was photoshopped, so this person got in trouble because this realtor got in trouble because they displayed a photo of this house, and when you actually go to the house looks a lot different.
They can see the photo. Here's, what it actually looks like.
Yeah, and it's not photoshopped, it's just perspective. Like the photographer just must have gotten really close to the house and just shot from below.
It got really low.
And it looks like they probably used a super wide angle because it looks like it was probably, the distortion was corrected, but it still looks a little bit distorted.
Are we positive it is only the angle that it was shot makes the difference?
Yeah, well, it's on the text. That's what it says.
Yeah,
it says
I know it says that.
Oh, okay.
But it feels like that thing would still be sticking up.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't know. I mean, somebody could be lying.
Power of perspective.
That's it's a really intense Photoshop trick. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So they could be in a lot of trouble because apparently this is in Australia, I believe, and this kind of misrepresentation.
Total misrepresentation.
Could be up to $22,000 in fines. I think it's just an interesting example, kind of like journalism. You need to be presenting these places as they actually are.
Well, it's not like you're not doing yourself any service because, if you're a good business person, you want to manage expectations. And if you're telling people like, oh, this is what this looks like, and then they show up and see something entirely different, then, they're not going to rent that from you. They're going to think you're totally dishonest. So that was just dumb in the first place.
Right. If I pulled up, I'd be like, I don't think we're at the right house.
Yeah, exactly.
The other one does not have a giant cement structure looming behind it.
Yeah. So, all right.
Just market it as the swimming pool. Pretend like that you can climb up on top. So Photoshop a diving board up there. Then we're all good.
All right. We mentioned the Pentax K1, correct?
We did, well, no, we just mentioned that it was announced. Let's talk
okay.
about some specifics. I got them on my screen here. So it's just, it's been, this isn't a surprise announcement. We knew Pentax was coming with a full frame for a very long time. They've been teasing, but now we have all of the specs listed out. We've talked about some of them on shows prior. 36 megapixel full frame. It's got a 3.2-inch cross tilt LCD monitor.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes, it is.
Kind of.
It's not touch. Can only do 1080 at 30 frames a second. So, as a hybrid machine, okay. Great autofocus system, 33-point, native ISO up to 204,000, 5-axis in-body shake reduction. We have a super resolution where it uses that image stabilization system to be able to shift the sensor around 1 pixel at a time and kind of create this higher resolution collage image.
Wow.
This isn't the first time we've seen that. Olympus has that in their newest cameras as well. We have that Astro Tracer mode, which we wondered about on previous podcasts. Something again with that shift and its GPS is going to help it move to allow you to do star photos, I think at a longer shutter speed than you would normally before you'd start to get star trails. Built-in Wi-Fi, GPS, dual SD card slots, weather-sealed magnesium alloy body. Oh, Pentax, how did you make it Wi-Fi and weather-sealed magnesium alloy? Canon couldn't figure out how to do that in their 7D Mark II. You're amazing.
And it's only $1,800.
Yes.
That's incredible.
I know.
That's such a great value for all that's packed into it.
The drawback. We got 2 lenses.
Okay.
Two modern current lenses. Now, help my ignorance here. Minolta, you can use older Minolta lenses, which there are plenty of, including full frame, because those were built for film cameras, I believe, on here. But as far as modern current lenses that I think hold up really well for probably a sensor as good as this, you only got 2, a 15-30 and a 28-105. I think it's a 28-105.
Wow, that's very, very
limited.
limited.
Switch. Yeah, 28-105 f3.5.6. So,
but Pentax has had lots of. It's not like this is a brand new camera that they're.
It's a brand new
frame. Oh, really? The other ones weren't?
Nope.
I thought
prop.
that they had.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Pentax. People ask them about me from time to time. I haven't been asked about them in quite a while. They, as you can see here, seem and often offer excellent values. The sensors are usually near the top of the sensor rankings. They're very good. The feature set is excellent. Oh, one other cool thing about this is Pentax had, I don't know if you remember, a year or 2 ago they came out with that very futuristic one that had like LED lighting all over it. We made a lot of fun of it.
No, all I remember is like the wormy looking camera. Like when
the HTC Reed periscope. No, the Pentax that had all of the cool features.
Yeah,
well,
I don't remember that.
They have used that lighting system in an intelligent way on this one that will allow you to do things in the dark. So you can change lenses with a little white LED light that's built into it. You can see the
really
buttons.
Helpful.
It is. So
get
this
some lenses
thing,
out there, Pentax.
If like 90% of what you love to do is to shoot the stars, this looks like an amazing.
This $1,800 camera with no lens is probably right for you.
Well, the 15-30. What is the 15-30? It's an f2.8. There you go. That's $1,500. It's almost as much as a camera. But you could do some really cool star astrophotography. So, but what I started to say is, yes, all this great stuff, but people who have Pentax, I often hear disappointed. They're like, oh, I'm going to buy this accessory or that accessory or this thing or that thing, and they don't make it for Pentax. So your ecosystem of extra stuff is much smaller with Pentax. If that doesn't bother you, it's great. If it does, well, coming in April. So we're about a month and a half away.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. It is really nice. Somebody in the chat says, Lee says only 1,800, as in really only 1,800. But if you think about,
full frame.
Yeah, it's full frame and it's got all of these. It does HD video, has all of these really great features. Image sensor, the sensor is stabilized, or in-camera stabilization. I mean, that's a really great price. It's just
seriously
the
weather
lens
sealed.
ecosystem.
You can't come up with any other full frame camera that is this feature packed
for that price. No, yeah. So it is. I mean, it's
cheaper full frames.
It's not cheap, but it's a really great value in my opinion.
Yeah.
So next is photos from space.
Photos from space, and totally self-serving. I got my own picture. It's photo of space. So we talked about the stars at Mount Cook. I don't know if we're going to talk a little bit more about this when we get down to the New Zealand section again, but they were unbelievable. We're pretty lucky here in Vermont. It can get pretty dark. The sky, not a ton of light pollution, especially if you travel a little further north and look in the right direction.
Not like this, though. But
not like this.
This is unbelievable.
And what was so amazing to me about this trip, well, first I'll finish talking about this picture, and then we can go back to us. So the Milky Way is amazing, and then we have these Magellanic cloud clusters off to the right, which we don't get to see in the Northern Hemisphere. And here they are. It was actually Riley's girlfriend who on the way home we were talking about this, and she was like, oh, I bet you saw the Magellanic cloud clusters. And I was like, that's what they are. And so it's just so cool. And what was so awesome about this trip, there's a lot of great things traveling to New Zealand, but so many of these people on the trip, this was their first star photography experience, and it was a lot of fun. I took over the teaching of this part. It was a blast giving everybody tips and tricks, and then being out there under the stars, and people were making pictures like this, and this was their first time. Now, part of me feels a little bad because we just set the bar ridiculously high.
Yeah, I mean, like so for some of them it was like their first star pictures, and they're like at this place that's like #2 in the world for star photography. So it's like they're going to be a little jaded.
Yeah. But it was just so amazing to be out there. The other thing that was really nice is the temperature was fantastic. We get the best stars, usually in the wintertime here. We don't see the Milky Way as much in the winter, but it's cold, but it's when it's clear. And this was like, 70, maybe 65, I don't know. It was fantastic. Really, really nice. So there was that. And kind of segueing from that into another opportunity to photograph awesome stuff in space, in space. With your feet on the ground, is the McKays have announced their Alaska Northern Lights trip. This is the second time they've done this. They just did this past December, had an awesome experience. They're headed back, and you can join us November 30th to December 7th.
And here's the thing about these trips, and we're going to go on a little bit more about our experience in New Zealand a little bit later in the show, but they sell out really fast. So if this is something that you're serious about, if you want to travel with them, if you want to learn lots of really great photography techniques and come away with amazing photos, like go check them out now, read up on it now, and do it now, because this is going to sell out really quickly. I mean, I think they're doing a fall tour in Vermont again, and that's sold out like
in a couple days.
Yeah,
I believe, right?
I mean,
yeah,
they go fast.
So it's not just the Northern Lights that you get to photograph. We're also going to spend time with an Iditarod champion going mushing or sled doggy.
That's pretty awesome.
Maybe saying mush. And spending time on a glacier. Where is it here? I thought they wrote it out. Oh, maybe it's in the newsletter I got from them. But you're going to get to spend time on a glacier photographing those melt pools that are unbelievably colored. It's going to be a fantastic time. Bring your little warm weather clothes. No, your cold weather clothes, so keep you warm. So, Northern Lights.
McKayLive.com. Go check them out. They have this trip plus lots of other really awesome.
They're linked in the sponsor section of the show notes so that you can find that link. And there's a train ride through an amazing Alaska countryside. Other than the Northern Lights, that might be the part that I was most jealous about seeing on this last trip, because I do love trains.
Yeah. For everybody who's asking if the cat is alive, he is alive. He is not stuffed. See? Totally alive. He just likes to sleep a lot. So.
All
right, let's move on. So now we're going to do our Instagram challenge. We haven't announced an Instagram challenge in a couple of weeks, but all of our Patreon supporters have had their little Instagram challenge competition on their own. And
it was a broader group, but
it was open to everybody.
Yeah, they were picking and doing a pretty good job of picking. I was keeping track. I agree mostly. Angela definitely seemed to have a little bit of a lock there, and maybe you have continued that trend.
Oh, yes, I definitely did.
All right.
Well, okay, so we didn't get a lot of submissions for this week, which was candy, I think.
Candy.
So, I guess I wasn't really surprised by it. But I would have liked to see a few more. If you guys don't know what the Instagram challenge is, because I'm noticing some new people in the chat. Thank you guys for joining us. So every week we pick a topic, and then you can take a picture. You can choose a picture you've already taken. Preferably you should take a picture, because that's kind of the point of this, just to challenge yourself a little bit and to have some fun. And then post it on Instagram with the hashtag PRTV_ whatever it is, the theme for the week. So this last week was candy. You have to have an Instagram account. If you don't have Instagram already, definitely get it, because it's super fun. And you can follow us on Instagram as well. But anyway, so that's what it is. So we're going to announce our winners. You go first, now that you've spoiled mine.
My first place winner is Nancy Cachia's picture. She told a little story with candy, and I thought that was so
That's really cool.
cute. So I really like that. It kind of feels like it's on a carpet, which worries me a little bit, because I want to eat this candy. Hope you didn't eat it. But
that wasn't the point.
It's clever.
Yeah.
And it's cute, and I picked her as my winner. Thank you, Nancy. Honorable mention, Cooper Griggs. We talk a lot about filling the frame with your subject, and just a really nice, tight shot of these colored little rock candies. I think the color looks fantastic, and I really like it.
I was going to say, actually one constructive criticism, even though that's not what this is about, but we decided that we were going to offer just a little bit. So this little blue spot. So when you're putting a bunch of colors together in one photo, I mean, I get that it's candy, and candy's kind of like, the colors are always usually pretty explosive and different and wild and colorful, but you have like just this tiny bit of blue. Like, put more blue or take it out completely. So these two colors are complementary, and white is a neutral color, so you don't have to think about it. And then it's okay to include the red, and it would have been okay to include a lot more of the blue, but it just becomes a distraction just to have this little bit of blue in it. And I was going to say the same thing about the lower left and right corners, but this gives us a little bit. They could have been like minerals if you couldn't see the little
handles.
Yeah, you could have mistaken them for minerals. I mean, the colors aren't quite right for minerals, but that's kind of what these candies look like. So just
that's funny. I hadn't noticed the blue at all, but
really?
But the white down here, just a little bit at an angle, had bothered me, and that was going to be my constructive criticism.
You've got a triangle on that lower left corner that you want to avoid.
All right, and my other honorable mention is Just Lay 87. I think you've lit this so very nicely. The reflection is fine. If gummy bears could ever look sinister, I think here they are. They're plotting humans' demise in some secret location in Gummyland. I just really like it. I think you did a nice job. All right.
My turn.
Your turn. You want to start with your honorable mentions? Or
Yeah.
Okay. First honorable mention.
Tony Lawrence. So first I thought that you had photoshopped this mouse and cat into the glass, but you didn't. They're just like cute little toy ones or porcelain ones. Yep. So I just thought it was really cute, and I enjoyed what you did with the lighting. It's kind of like there's a nice rim of light. You don't see like a huge reflection off of the glass, which is really challenging to do. You have to cut out a lot of distractions, a lot of light in the room in order to get a really clean shot of a glass like this. So I thought that you did a really good job with that. That was great. And I just, it was just really cute. So I really liked it.
I like it too. And then B. Hillibib.
I really like the lighting in this one. It feels very clean. It feels like a very clean picture. And I like that the background is kind of dark. It feels kind of unexpected because color, like candy, you expect to be very like bright and colorful and happy. Not that this isn't, but
you feel like it's toned down a little.
It's toned down, and I liked it. And I mostly like the light. I like the little bit of flare in from the left coming in.
Yep. Yeah. I like this one a lot too, but I've talked about this before when we've done food or food-related things. White balance to me becomes critical when we're looking at food-type stuff.
Yeah.
And I felt like this was a little bit warmer than it should have been.
Yeah, maybe.
But that's just minor.
I kind of liked it.
We also have just a little bit of angle down here.
Yeah.
Just be really careful about that when you've got the time and your subject isn't going anywhere. To really line those things up very, very carefully.
And my winner.
Your winner. Her reign continues.
Angela. Somebody's gonna defeat Angela. Come on. No, I'm just kidding.
Are these all peanut M&Ms?
Nice job,
I'm really
Angela.
hungry now.
So I really love the light. I don't know how you lit this. It looks like maybe from a window, or maybe you used a softbox or something. But it looks like a really nice commercial shot. It looks very pro, so well done. And it's like in the theme of Valentine's Day, which was like pretty close to, just happened. So nice. Nice job.
Yep. I mentioned that the white balance thing. There's a couple of them right away that jump out at me. This one I think is a cool shot, but it feels very blue. This one on the top left here. This one on the right hand side feels similar. This one here too. So you see these are decent shots, but it's the white balance that immediately takes it away from me.
Yeah, the chocolate one is great too.
Well, there's a lot of other really nice shots. These are very clean. I like both of these. This one I really like, except similar to the carpet, and you might think I'm a little too picky here, we've got Candy laying against fuzzy things. And that immediately is like, oh, I don't want to lick that.
Unless it's cotton candy, I'm not. I mean, I know that you're not like trying to sell this, but still, it's like I can just feel the fuzz in my tongue. Like it just it does not go well together.
So thanks everybody for participating. This is a lot of fun. I think, from time to time we critique them a little bit more. I think we're going to continue to do that a little bit more to give you feedback to help you figure out what makes a better image. And your challenge this next week is to photograph something in your hometown that says your hometown. We're calling that PRTV_local. So get out there.
So what do you love about your town? Like, not the name specifically of your town, but things like for example, Brattleboro has a big farmer's market that I really like, so I would maybe go to the farmer's market or the co-op and photograph things at the co-op, like the bulk section or something like that. So
I was thinking
things like that.
And I have shots of this. We have an intersection in the main part of town called Malfunction Junction or Dysfunction Junction.
Malfunction Junction.
Malfunction Junction. It's actually labeled that on Google. And it's kind of this, is it a 4-way? 5. I think it has 5.
It's like
1, 2,
5,
3, 4.
And there's 4. Like a blind turn because somebody's like, whoever's coming from the bridge.
Main intersection.
Yeah.
So, but, light trails through that, kind of capturing that. And you can look up Main Street from that. I've shot reviews there. I've photographed long exposures there. So that's kind of what I was thinking. But leave it up to you. And all you need to do to participate is put the image on Instagram and tag it. Hashtag, that's that little Octothorpe, PRTV_local.
Yep. So I hope.
Did you know that thing was called an Octothorpe?
I did not. No. Learn something every day. So yeah, please enter. We'd love to see your pictures. Sometimes it can be really hard to pick winners, but we really enjoy seeing all of them. So please participate.
Scozio said, I think we did a My Town challenge. I think you're right. This sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think we did.
But now we're doing it and calling it local. So,
running out of ideas, guys. Come on.
Well, this was suggested in the group, and I thought it sounded great and didn't have time to check.
All right, so let's talk. Are we going to talk about another sponsor?
Well, just, there are a lot of ways to support this show. One of the best ways is to become a direct sponsor through Patreon. We have a whole little page written out that tells you all about it at photorec.tv/support. But you've got a couple different levels at which you can support monthly, a $3 and a $5, and there's some other ones as well, but those are our most popular. $3 gets you access to all of our Lightroom videos. We're really proud of the work we've done on those.
That's a really great deal.
It is a really great deal. Honestly, you could pay 1 month and then just keep them all. That's kind of a crappy thing to do, but you could do it. And that teaches, maybe you're a Picasa user and you feel totally left out, but you want to take the next step. You hear about Lightroom, but it sounds really confusing. We take you all the way from installing to editing professional looking portraits that you teach, and the feedback we've gotten from folks has been fantastic.
Really good. So, I feel like NPR doing our pledge drive.
We need our mugs.
Public Radio.
Oh, but we don't have mugs you can buy yet.
Not yet.
Oh, someday maybe.
It's coming.
Yeah, right. And so that's $3, plus you get access to the Lightroom support group. So you have a question about something you've seen in the video, Or like some users, you don't watch the videos, but you ask questions that are answered in them. Don't do that.
Watch the videos, people.
And then at the $5 a month, you got access to the support group where you can ask all kinds of things. You're trying to figure out what lens is there for you next. You don't want just my opinion or Christina's opinion. You want a bunch of different people's opinion, and our group is awesome. As awesome as our Lightroom videos, the people are helpful, they're friendly, they are knowledgeable, they've been exactly where you've been, maybe just a couple months ago or last year or further. The point is, they know what it's like to be a beginner, and everybody's welcomed and helpful in there. And so this is actually just a thanks to you all that are in that group. We love you. You're fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
You make what we do better.
Yeah.
And then there's higher levels as well,
go ahead,
where you get fast access to me and detailed questions and monthly critiques as well. So check it all out at photorec.tv/support. What we do here costs us money, and your support helps us afford to be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you guys. Okay, let's move on to briefly discussing New Zealand. So first, we want to talk about a few things, like what are some of the, like some highlights, what we learned photographically and culturally, and but let's start with our favorite parts. Like, what would you say are your favorite, like top 2 or 3 things about visiting New Zealand?
Being on the other side of the world. You know, it's been on my list forever, and just being able to go. And you know, I saw somebody mention that, you know, these trips are not cheap. I totally hear you. As somebody who might seem really wealthy right now because I got a lot of cameras on the table and stuff, money is very tight, and I understand that. But
the experience and the value that you get on these trips is invaluable. It really is. It's priceless. It's like you walk away with friendships and you learn things, and like seriously, we were exhausted, I think probably every day of the trip. Just exhausted because we had to get up so early and got back so late. But we had so much fun. It was so fun. So
so being there was fun. You already heard me gush about the stars. Standing there under those stars is going to be a memory I'll have for the rest of my life, or at least until I get Alzheimer's or something like that. It was absolutely fantastic. Mount Cook, that park was awesome. So that whole area. We heard a lot about the South Island before we went. Some people were even a little snobby. They're like, that North Island. Wait till you get to the South Island. The North Island is very nice.
Yeah, it was totally nice. Hobbiton was so fun.
Yeah, I did. I liked the hustle and bustle of Auckland. I thought it was a very cool, diverse city. That was great. And the Milford Sound, which again, if those of you have been paying close attention, you know I'm a little bit of a geography nerd, or a lot of a geography nerd. And in Iceland, I talked about standing there at the bottom of these U-shaped valleys carved by glaciers. It was beautiful. Then here we are traveling through flooded valleys, fjords, in Milford Sound with the waterfalls, which you all haven't seen. That vlog hasn't been published yet. It was awesome.
Yeah, and the last, you guys have to watch the last vlog because we did some really cool stuff in the very last day that you'll have to watch out for. It was just amazing. I would say like top 3 things, definitely Mount Cook, Queenstown.
Queenstown's a cool little city.
Yeah, and Milford Sound.
Yeah. You could, no offense to the North Island, but if you really want that kind of rugged landscape, that's what you're looking for when you go to New Zealand, you could spend all of your time on the South Island and be quite happy.
Yeah.
You know, from Picton.
But Auckland was awesome. We just had really great meals there, and it's just like a really cool
They're a little bit of a foodie. Auckland was very nice. And offered a lot of beauty as well. But that rugged, the Southern Alps, that whole South Island was awesome.
Yeah.
I see Sully's going there in summer, which will be their winter.
Nice.
And again, I think that offers some fantastic snow-capped peaks. There was some snow and glaciers still. Well, glaciers because they're year-round. It was just very, very cool.
Yeah. Okay, so...
Do we want Riley to run any of that video while we talk for a minute more?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what were some of the things we learned? Did we pick up any, because we're always learning, even though we teach you guys a lot, we're always learning new things. I think the theme of this trip was like just sort of making the best of situations that were available photographically. Like we definitely were around at sunset and at nighttime to shoot some great photos, but a lot of the times we were traveling from one place to the other and we saw these amazing locations and it was like maybe 2 in the afternoon when the sun was like really bright.
Right.
So we kind of had to just make the best of it. So I think that was kind of a big lesson, I think, for people and for me too. You know, I was shooting video. Is not totally different than photography, but it's a little bit different. So you have to. It's a learning process for me still. So so yeah, what would you say? Did you learn anything? Was there anything that you could provide that? What did like anything that you heard David say that you could pass on to people?
I'm sure there is, but I'm drawing a blank right now. The one thing,
spot.
back to the stars again, though, is I just reminded how few shots you need to make amazing star trails. You really don't need that many. And it looks so complicated. And we had Mark on the trip, who might be watching this later, and he was like, I don't think I took enough. You know, he did take a time lapse, and he's like, I don't think I took enough. We threw them together, boom. It was a pretty awesome picture. I'll be writing up and doing a video soon on how exactly to put together from star trails and for shooting stars as well. That's coming sometime in the near future. It's not nearly as difficult as you think, and again, that is just one of my favorite memories of the trip, teaching the people and then having them go out and make awesome pictures.
Yeah.
A lot of, you know, we covered a lot of ground on this trip, so there were times where we were, you know, photographing midday.
Yeah. The North Island was cool because there was a lot of like volcanic activity, or not volcanic, but like geothermal activity. So there were a lot of just like really cool landscapes and geysers and things like that. It smelled. It was kind of stinky at times, but it was really cool. Yeah. I ruined a necklace by like going into a hot tub with like acid, or not acid, not acid, that's horrible. What was the hot, sulfur. I'm drawing a sulfur, sulfuric water,
geothermally
water.
Heated hot tub, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
Who likes that? Our hair smelled for weeks.
It's so gross.
But that brings up a point.
Didn't make my skin feel good, I will say that.
Yeah, mine too, I think. Except smelly. That brings up a point of making sure to experience things on these trips as well. Don't just go and see everything from behind your camera. There were multiple times where there was beautiful water, and I was like, I'm getting in it, and I went swimming. And you know, sometimes it was very cold, but it was just because, I mean, when else do you get a chance to swim in a glacial lake or a glacial river? And just really enjoyed that. And the jet boating, which you're going to see on the last day as well, wasn't so much photographic, but
so fun.
Was an experience.
Yeah.
So
I think that, I mean, that kind of wraps it up, doesn't it?
Yeah. People were very friendly. It was an easy country to get around in. You know, there is, again, we covered a lot of ground, and, you know, talking to David, they are starting to plan a return to New Zealand, and probably focusing more on the southern island, because that's where those epic landscapes are. So if you're thinking about that, I know it's tough when you travel so far to kind of limit your travels within the country you go as a destination, but you know, you want to juggle having time, especially time at certain times of day, to photograph versus trying to see everything and only seeing it a little bit.
Yeah. Sully wants to know about the weather there. So when we were there, which is their summer, it was like really sunny, like no rain and sun pretty much the entire time.
Yeah, not even clouds a lot of the time.
And I think that prior to our arrival in Auckland, it had rained for a good period of time. And I know that, you know, they get downpours and rain fairly often. Wellington, I think, is kind of a rainy city, and it's like kind of moody that way.
Most people who have seen pictures I've posted have been surprised, who know New Zealand, who either live there or not, have been pretty surprised at how clear.
Yeah, we got really lucky. Like when we went to Mount Cook, somebody had said that, you know, it hadn't been clear in like all the times that they've been there, which was like multiple times over like a number of years. So I think we got really lucky with the weather, and
it was bright.
So they're asking actually if they should bring lots of ND. So
ND filters?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of places where you can get amazing
Yeah.
reflections, and so if you can get a slower shutter speed. Again, you know, for years I've been a frugal photographer, and I would just stay up later after the sun went down or get up earlier when the light levels are low, and then you don't need much of an ND filter, if at all, to be able to do some of those shots. So ND filters definitely help you if you're a little less flexible in your time you're going to be around, but you can do that stuff without as well. Actually, for years I used a circular polarizer in those cases.
Yeah, and I use a circular polarizer for video a lot, which was really helpful.
Now let me ask you, you haven't seen your pictures yet, but you shot film camera with the 50, Sigma 50, and the 85.
Yeah.
Did you use the 85 much?
I mostly use the 50, but I did use the 85 sometimes.
How did you feel in some of those more epic landscapes at a 50 focal length?
Well, I had the 35 if I needed to switch to it, but I use my phone for a lot of the much wider ones where like sort of like you've got these big mountains and they curve down at the bottom. I use my phone for those. And I thought, I mean, it's okay. For me, it's less about getting a particular shot and more about taking what I have with me and just making it work. Because a lot of the times we stopped and because I was doing video, I didn't have a ton of time to take pictures. So it's not like I had the luxury of like, oh, switching lenses, picking the perfect one, picking the perfect thing. So I have to be really quick about it. So whatever was on my camera at the time, whatever lens, I just had to make it work. And for me, it's just kind of about evaluating the scene, choosing elements in the scene that I'm really drawn to, and taking my gear that I have on me already set up and making that work. I mean, I don't expect that to be the case for everybody, but that's what I do. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't recommend that everybody do what I do, which is carry just two prime lenses, which can be very limiting. But for me, that's all I need, and I'm very happy to just do that. So.
And that's actually when I started talking about the expense of these trips, and somebody else mentioned this earlier, is you could buy a new piece of gear, or you could take what you have and go on a trip like this. Because you're going to make amazing pictures with whatever you have. And
I mean, you can, if you have the skill to take a good picture, you'll take a good picture no matter what you have. I mean, obviously there are some limitations, but yeah, it's not about the gear. It's definitely about getting out there, having these experiences, and knowing how to take good photos, and really being able to see good light. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that's great.
Yeah, so we're gonna
discussion.
I'm gonna move on to the live Q&A.
This is where we answer your questions live, and Roy has been nicely adding those to the list. If you haven't asked them yet, make sure you put them in there. And Isaiah, the cat, is not dead, and nothing's wrong with him.
You guys, everybody's been asking. Like today,
these are clearly new people. So thank you for joining and watching. But he likes to hang out with us. He's a cool cat.
Totally live.
All right, so Larry wants to know, when you buy used cameras, what are qualities that you look for purchasing, or you look at for purchasing, like shutter actuations? Well, first off, let me say that I think buying used bodies is often an excellent way to go, because body value drops precipitously over time.
And buying used lenses too. I don't think I have bought a new lens in a very long time, other than like the Sigmas, because they were brand new to begin with. They were just announced. But I always buy my lens used. My lens is used. I just make sure that they have good reviews. Buy some from somewhere like Amazon if you have that in your country, or from an eBay place that has really good reviews and seems reputable. But yeah, I mean, sometimes a tip, I think for people, I usually look to the description. If it's like a photographer that's trying to get rid of a piece of gear and they're like, oh, I found myself not really using it. Like, I usually will trust that. So make sure that you read the description, why they're getting rid of it. If not, ask them, and ask to see lots of photos if possible. But with some place, if you buy from Amazon, you have pretty good guarantee that you're not really going to get scammed as far as like getting a crappy product, because you can always
Shutter actuations is something to look at, but not get too hung up on. I have sold cameras, and somebody wrote me back and was like, this camera has 12,000 shutter actuations on it. It was rated for 200,000. Who cares about 12,000? how many pictures are you really going to take? And one, you can fix shutters if you actually go that high. And two, that number is not guaranteed when it's going to die. It should get at least that high. So don't get too hung up on that. But, you know, if it's like 50% over its lifespan, you should factor that into the price the person is asking for it. If you can put your hands on it. We had this story a couple weeks ago of like a police station setting up a Craigslist, you know, spot in their parking lot where you could buy and sell. If you get your hands on it, you want to look and see if you can see if there's any dings on it that looks like it's been banged hard or dropped. And you even bought a lens with a scratch on it. The person was like, it's got a small scratch on it, doesn't affect optical quality, and it didn't.
Well, I bought it from my friend Steve, who I really trust, and it had, you know,
I thought you bought that one from Amazon.
No, that's a 70-200 that has like a. Yeah. It's pretty visible. It doesn't affect any image quality, but it is visible on the glass itself.
Yeah, so if you can see it beforehand, but I think the best advice is to start someplace trustworthy with, you know, somebody that's got decent reviews and seems to know what they're talking about when they try to sell it.
Yeah, for sure. Wanting to buy the 12mm Rokinon, have a Canon 7D and a Sony a6000. Which one should I buy?
Welcome to my world, Auntie Van. I'm in the same position now with, I've got 3 camera systems that I enjoy using. The GH4, Micro Four Thirds, the Sony, and Canon. And so as I look at new purchases for lenses to add functionality to what we do here, it becomes tricky. If you're talking about the original 7D, that is a significant step behind a6000 in image quality, and I would probably just put the Rokinon on that. However, you could, since it's a dumb lens anyway, dumb meaning it's no electronic stuff, you could get it for the Canon and then buy an adapter that would allow you to use it on the Sony pretty cheaply. So that's a different way to go. I don't think, every once in a while, I wonder if there's any differences in infinity focus when it's on an adapter, because I sometimes struggle getting that when I'm using a Canon lens on the Sony and trying to get those night shots. But you should be able to figure that out if there is and compensate for it. But that's your options. Either just get it for the Sony or get it for the Canon and get an adapter to use it when you want to on the Sony.
Nick Snick wants to know, is there any equipment that you wish you had taken? I don't think so. I think I maybe wish I had taken my 5D Mark III just to have been able to like get some instant gratification, but I know that when I get my film pictures back, I'm gonna be really happy with them. So, plus I didn't really have time to like switch cameras, and there was like hardly, like we brought so much stuff as it is that there was like no way that there was any more room for another camera. So
I kind of wish I brought the cheap kit lens for the Sony. Because again, when I was using the 24-70 and or filters for that size, when I was using the 24-70 on that ComLate adapter, it's a really sucky experience often. Focus can be funny, and you know, I don't have the Metabones adapter. If I did, I'd probably be a little bit happier, but the ComLate, it's just not good. It's not a good experience. So having that kit lens, plus it's much lighter, would have been fine for a lot of my pictures. I'm talking about the cheap 28-75 I bought used from B&H for like $2.99 or something like that, and is not a great lens, but it's good enough for a lot of the scenic pictures when I'm shooting at f8 anyway.
Yeah.
So
Gage Planka wants to know, does anybody recommend the Canon 6D body for wedding photography and portraiture? Yes. Yeah, totally.
Good value.
Yeah.
Good camera. Bavmav1 wants to know if the Sony a6300 will surpass any mid-range SLRs. I think so. I mean, this a6000 can match up against the 70D very nicely, and I think the a6300 is going to be a noticeable improvement in low light performance and focusing speed and power. I think it's going to, I mean, it's kind of priced in there. It's 1,000 body only, so it should be at that level. What are your sacrifices you make? Well, you have less lens choices, you got a little bit less battery life, but I think it's going to be a very nice walk-around camera that offers 4K video.
Yeah.
We answered Sully's.
Yes, we did. Any suggestion to keep people from stealing your photos and selling them? This is kind of a...
First off, let me be really rude and say, Maya, are you that good that people are going to steal your photos and sell them? It's pretty rare. Now, it happens. We got Tony Lawrence, who it has happened to him on more than one occasion.
Well, they don't have to. I mean, this isn't to insult anybody's photography abilities, but they don't have to be that good for people to steal them. They just have to be like, like you hear from people all the time who are like, oh, I'm going to set up a new wedding website and sell my services, and then just grab a bunch of people's wedding pictures. And the answer is no. You just kind of have to deal with it. Unfortunately, there aren't really any repercussions unless you're willing to spend a lot of money and energy suing the person that has stolen your photos. And you'll just kind of, you could go to, there's like blogs that are dedicated to just like, not accusing, but
photo stealers.
Photo stealers, yeah. That are sort of a way to hold people accountable, but they're not. What's the worst that can happen? So you could watermark your pictures, which I don't recommend because I think that if you are trying to sell your pictures, that brings the value down. You don't go to an art gallery and see pictures with like watermarks on them. You don't see that. Like Peter Lick, does he watermark his pictures? I don't think he does.
I don't know.
And they're well known, so if somebody tried to steal them, they probably wouldn't get away with it anyway. But the point is that, I think that watermarking, you can watermark your pictures, that's totally fine. But I don't do that for myself. And, the fact is that if you watermark your picture, there is a really good chance that they could just Photoshop it out if they really want to take it. So it's not really an end-all be-all solution, and I think it hurts you in the long run. There's a difference I've seen in wedding photographers, for example, whose blogs are, who they watermark every picture. And I think that is valuable in the sense that, like, if somebody sees that picture and they see the watermark and they really like the picture, they can reach out to you. But I think it also devalues the photography a little bit. I don't know what it is about the watermark. Like, you have to have like a really, really, really strong logo or something for it to not look, for it to not cheapen the image. That's my personal opinion on that. So, no, you can just kind of reach out to whoever has stolen your photos and like try to amicably find a solution for it. Ask them to take it down, expose them online somewhere.
Yeah.
There isn't really any.
Right. And I asked too, I don't think I'm in the majority here, but if you're not selling them yourself, then you're really not a huge loss to you if they're stealing them. It's certainly annoying, it's frustrating, and they're stupid people for doing it, and you want to punch them in the face, but it's not financially hurting you.
Right.
So, like my star picture I put up at 500 pics is a good resolution, as you all saw it, and you should vote it up so it gets a nice popular. It makes me feel good. But, somebody could screen scrape that pretty easily. There's no watermark on it.
And Roy just suggested in the chat, there's pixsy.com, Pixsy.com, that will automatically track your photos for popping up in other sites. So if you want to like register your photos and take the time to do that, then you can keep track of anybody else who might steal them.
I don't know if it's that service I've tried or another one. Doesn't Lens Tag do something similar? It has so many false positives though, that it's like, here's your picture being used someplace else. It's not my picture, it was like a weird half clip art graphic or something. So it's a little annoying, but that's true. There's different ways to make it less painful for you to find these things.
Yeah.
So.
Vincent, how does the video autofocus tracking on the Sony a7R II compare to the Canon 7DD dual pixel autofocus and the GH4? I don't think that the Sony is any better at focus tracking than the GH4. I am now that I've used both, I am standing by that.
I don't think you've seen, because we've so rarely used Sony lenses to film ourselves. With the camera. With a Sony lens on there, it is just as good, and it may be in some cases a little bit better because it can track the eye. You can ask it to track the eye. You lose all that when you put other lenses on with adapters.
All right.
But
I will give you I'll give that to you partially because one of the big disadvantages of using the Sony that I have found is that it's really hard to tell when something's in focus. The resolution of the LCD in the back is awful, and the focus peaking is terrible. It's not good. It is not. I mean, you use the GH4 and you can tell when something's in focus away, every single time.
I don't feel that they're as bad as you're saying, but I agree that they are not as good as they can be. And that's another thing I love with the GH4. Yes, focus peaking and that screen together, you know when things are in focus. The Sony, it's a little like,
and that's
I actually thought it was because I dropped it. I was like, maybe, but then I have actually read somebody I really trust who said the exact same thing. They said the resolution of the screen and its focus peaking. Well, there are times the focus peaking is just like, I don't know, everything's in focus. I'm at f1.4, you fool camera, not everything's in focus.
Right. And exactly. It takes the edge of bokeh and it says that that's in focus. Like that's how bad it is. And I have used native lenses. The 55 millimeter is a native lens. I use that. The 35 millimeter, when we had that for a while, I use that, and it does not. I mean, it's not terrible, but it does make the difference between like you being certain that that shot is in focus, and then later finding out in the computer that it's total garbage and you can't use it. And that is huge. I mean, that is time and money lost, and that's unacceptable. So
yeah. Trevor's sticking up for the Sony some and saying, 1, native lenses. Yep, absolutely agree. 2, that you can use the zoom. Again, that resolution is not great with that screen, so it is not a automatic thing. If you've compared it, it's not bad, but when you compare it to something like the GH4, it is much easier to tell when things are in focus manually on the GH4. Trust me.
It is.
So, but overall, as I said, I shot all of my photos with the Sony, and I've been very happy with it, especially when using native lenses, less so with the adapters, but that's not the Sony's problem. What else? Oh, and I did shoot occasionally a few little clips of video as well. And again, it does a nice job of shooting gorgeous 4K video as well.
Yeah.
Just not as friendly to use as the GH4 for what we were doing. So nobody get their panties in a bunch thinking we're saying the camera sucks. That does sound kind of like Christina saying that.
Well,
but it depends on how you're using it and what you're using it for.
Well, no, it does not depend on how you're using it if you are trying to track focus and make sure that something is in focus by looking at the LCD screen, because it does not do a good job of telling you what's in focus via focus peaking or via the resolution of the screen.
Yeah, and Metabones, as Sully is saying, does work much better than the ComLight as well. And Kevin says, remember to give this show a thumbs up. Or do, thank you for that. And if you're not a subscriber already, take a moment to subscribe. I think we're wrapping this up and we're going to move into the after show, where one of the questions we're going to answer is, what happened to that adorable kitten from the 3rd vlog? Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Last things we want to say. Thumbs up. Thanks for reminding us about that, Kevin. And subscribe if you're not already. And think about becoming a Patreon supporter. You get benefits. We get benefits. Everybody benefits. And we have a giveaway right now. Yes, these trips are expensive, but you could win what is going to be a next level bucket list times 1,000 Africa safari giveaway happening right now. You know about that? Photorec.tv/giveaway is all of that information available for you. No strings, no catches, your airfare, your accommodations.
Everything.
In this amazing African safari location in Tanzania. We're going to watch the, I can't even remember the name, and if David's in the chat, he's going to yell at us later. It's the river crossing migration of the billions of wildebeests.
I believe it's the Maasai River?
I mean, it's National Geographic level.
No, not the Maasai River. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think, it's the Maasai people live there. I don't know if it's the Maasai River.
I don't think so.
I know. We should know. But it's going to be an amazing experience. So you could win that. Make sure you enter, take advantage of those bonus opportunities, and we hope you win.
And we'll see you next week at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time for another Photo Mishmash. We'll send an email to remind you and post it on social media. So, see you again next week. Leave a comment down below if you have anything to argue with us about, or if you like the show. Give us a thumbs up.
And, said that. That's the 3rd time now.
Yeah, third time.
We sound like we're begging for
thumbs
up.
Please.
We'll get an alive cat next time if we get 1,000 thumbs up.
Yeah. All right, goodbye, everybody.
Now is the after show available just for our Patreon supporters.